Guys, it's time to go over my May reading wrap up and talk about my super hefty, guaranteed God tier read, June TBR. I feel like summer 2026 is about to be the best season for romantasy, dystopian, and any kind of reading there could possibly be, but specifically romantasy and dystopian, because I have read so many books that I absolutely loved, and I'm actually like the most excited I've ever been about a TBR when it comes to my June TBR. So let's talk about it. Today we're gonna go over the very tiny, very unimpressive May reading wrap up. Here are the books that I read in May. It's not very many. I have been going through like a big life transition. I will tell you about it at the end of this video, or I don't know if you want to know, but listen, I'll give you the books first, and then we're gonna go over my super hefty June TBR. Listen, not it being like June 20th right now when I'm doing this reading wrap up, but listen, I've already finished 2 of these, so I feel like I might can do it by the end of June. So number 1, we're gonna see how much I stick to my June TBR, and I'm gonna need you to tell me if I've got any mistakes on there or if there are any that I need to prioritize. So, oh wait, this isn't all that I've read in May. There's one more book. Let me get it. Also, when I stacked my books up here and I unfolded my little tripod, an earwig fell out of it. And that was absolutely terrifying and disgusting, and I've trapped him under a jar right now, so. Do they actually go in your ears? Does anybody know? Like, they're scary. Anything with pinchers on its butt is not for me. All right. Anyway, welcome back to my channel where we talk about romantasy books, fantasy books, dystopian. I honestly, not to be like super egotistical, but I do have some of the best book recs ever if we're on the same wavelength. So feel free to subscribe, turn the alerts on, come back. I'm officially here weekly. This is my reading wrap up. I promise I've been telling you this forever, but I am working on my official master list for every standalone romantasy book out there that you should read. That's coming next week. I have the stack of books made. I just haven't finished the video yet. So anyway, like and subscribe, give me a comment, let's go over the books. I would love to have a discussion if anybody else read these books, if you're looking forward to them, if you've heard of them, and then I really want input on my June TBR because I feel like they're all going to be 5 stars, but they can't be. Something has to be disappointing. So first let's go over the books that I read. Here are the books that I read in May. May was, listen, she was small but she was mighty. I read like every single book was a great time. So speaking of standalones, if you want one right out the gate, I read a 5-star standalone romantasy book in May. Between Tides and Thunder. Guys, this is so slept on. Number 1, there is no way that this is not going to get picked up by a trad publisher. And number 2, this is how you do a romantasy standalone. I feel like the last standalone that I read that was this good was The Poison Daughter. And truly, if you liked The Poison Daughter, you're going to like this book. It's not the same plot whatsoever. It's got a completely different world and set of circumstances and romance. But the romance was like layered and emotional. And the tension and yearning were like, they took me back to my like Spark of the Everflame days, except it's just 1 book. You don't have to get through like 3 books of yearning, but it feels like you've been through 3 books of yearning by the time you get to the end of this book. The relationship was top tier, unmatched. I didn't think I was gonna like the guy in here. I don't know if anybody knows what I like. I like a red flag. I like enemies to lovers. I like quippy banter. The banter in here was bantering. It was a very different type of banter though. I don't know how to describe it. So anyway, we have an FMC who is in a kingdom and she is betrothed to further her family to a prince in another kingdom. Except when the people from the kingdom show up to take her, the prince is not with them. It's another guy who has to like sort of escort her to the prince. And I don't like a travel romantasy, but listen, if that scared you off, come back. We're only traveling for about a quarter of the book. Like, it's not the whole book. And when I tell you, it is traveling and questing done correctly. It is not boring. It is not just passing time. Some of the best parts of the romance happen in this travel situation. And listen, the man who is taking her to her betrothed may or may not be a super attractive, super hot, super like make you want to crawl to him man. And this also has one of my favorite like micro tropes in it, which is like a blood feeding trope. So it's basically, they're not vampires, but they have magical power and they can, I think it's called something similar to power sharing. It's not necessarily like drinking blood, but like there's a power sharing technique in here, and you share power, and sort of as you do in other series, when you share power, it's sort of like a euphoric vibe. It's a little bit of an aphrodisiac. So we've got the microtrope where we have an injured FMC. She's critically injured. He helps her by power sharing, and then she is like spiced up for hours, chasing him around the woods, you guys. This was so good. Like, I promise that's not a spoiler because there is so much more that happens. There are so many twists. Like, the plot twist did not stop in this book. I'm going to tell you something right now based on a comment that I've gotten and based on how I felt when I was reading the book. Give it a minute to cook. It's not going to be slow paced. It's not going to be boring, but it's going to feel a little bit cookie cutter romantic-y for about, I don't know how many pages, but longer than you think it is. And then it's gonna pop off with a plot twist that is going to have you sitting down. And then it never stops from there. There are multiple plot twists in here. The plot is amazing. The magic is very interesting. I also don't want to tell you a lot about the magic because there are some like sort of unknown things when it comes to the magic. And I would like you to be just as surprised, just as delighted. If you are looking for a standalone book, this is the book. It is one book. It feels like you've read a whole series. It's only going to take you a couple of days, and I didn't want to put it down. It doesn't have an audiobook yet. Because it's indie published, but I do feel like it's going to get picked up by a trad publisher. So if you want an indie copy, a hard copy, you better get one immediately from your local indie bookstore because this ain't no way this isn't getting picked up and reprinted, you guys. It was so good. So let me know if you've read this. This was sort of just like dropped into my comments one day. I looked it up, liked the cover, had no idea it was a standalone, decided to read it, and then ended up loving it. So if you have any recommendations, feel free to drop them. Now, one of my favorite things that I read last month was Starside, or maybe it was April, a couple months ago, whenever, and that put me in a reading slump. However, I didn't think that I would find something that I liked as much as, or maybe better than Starside, and I don't know why, but I didn't think this book was going to be as good as it is. I read it, I saw some people talking about it, I heard it was Games and Trials, and quite honestly, I will give anything with Games and Trials a chance, even though Games and Trials has been a little bit overdone, and it's been like overdone not well. These Games and Trials are actually well done. I approve them. Games and Trials. They are not surface level. They're an actually like large part of the plot. Nothing pisses me off more than when a book or series is like advertised as Games and Trials and they're like 10% of the book and they're the like babyest little like meaningless trials you've ever read in your life. That's not what these are. These are substantial. I can tell that the author really thought about them. There's like high stakes. It's riveting, like it's actually like the kind of vibes that you feel sort of at the end of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, sort of like Hunger Games. I would say they're slightly smaller portion than they are in Hunger Games, but like if you liked and read something like The Ascended, the Games and Trials were giving me that kind of vibe. Like we have an angsty, tension-filled romance. This is pretty slow burn. I think the only criticism that I have about this book, and this is not going to bother everybody, is that this had a really good slow burn, a very, very good slow burn. However, when we sort of like get together in here, it starts moving really far really quickly, and I feel like the emotions between these two like developed very quickly, very suddenly. I wanted a little bit more of like torture to our slow burn, whereas like this was a slow burn and then it kind of pops off. This is gonna have spicy moments in it. This is going to have angst. It's gonna have banter. I liked the MMC in here a lot. And I don't know where we're going in book 2. I don't know what sort of betrayal we got going on. I don't know what sort of yearning and lovers to enemies situation we're going to have going on. Sometimes that's like even better than enemies to lovers is like a lovers to enemies situation. So I ate this up. This was a 4-star for me. I feel like the romance could have made it a 5-star if we had had a little bit more like, listen, you can have spicy moments. You can have like angry enemy spice like we had in Zodiac Academy where it's like you have a spicy moment and you still hate each other after. I just feel like I don't like it when everything's good very quickly. However, again, this is a series, so I cannot judge it by this book. It bothered me in this one a tiny bit. However, I thought the slow burn to get there was so good that I'm overlooking it a little bit. But we're going to tell you what we think about the books on here. I would recommend this to anybody who loved Starside, anybody who loved Fourth Wing. This is very Fourth Wing coded. It doesn't have dragons. There are magical creatures in here. We're not like necessarily bonding to dragons or anything, but there are magical creatures in here. There is a camaraderie. There's like a crew of people. It's not just about our MMC and FMC. I love when the side characters actually play like a big part. They're memorable and they're like really well developed as side characters. So this was sort of giving Legends of Thesmar in that way. But this was very surprising. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. I was very suspicious, but it's also duet narration with Anthony Palmini, who is the voice of Rhysand, Kingfisher, Slade Ravager. So I was like, listen, that's gonna do something. And the audiobook was a work of art. The audiobook was really, really, really good. So I would recommend, read it however you want to, but I personally recommend the audiobook. So listen, I have a question. I have a room divider. I'm gonna need a show of hands in the comments, or you can literally just raise your hand in your house. Who thinks that the end of Allegiant, was absolutely perfect, no notes, and you liked the way that it ended? Hopefully it's not just me. Veronica Roth has a new dystopian sort of sci-fi series. This took me back to how I felt when I read books in like middle and high school. And this is not a young adult book. It's not that, but like it was written in the style of like, you can tell Veronica Roth is a seasoned author. I feel like I read a lot of indie books. So I read a lot of people's debuts. I read a lot of books that are a little bit, just people who are newer to writing. And every now and then I'll read a seasoned author and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is such a different vibe. And there is nothing wrong. Indie authors are amazing. They're some of like the best books that I've ever read. But it is a vibe when you read something that's like truly well written, like no notes and paced really well. And the plot is really good and the characters are good and they're deep. And this one was written in that limited third person POV. And I've decided that that is one of my favorite things. I love limited third person. I love when characters are not necessarily reliable. I just love that little bit of detachment because I feel like it makes the plot points hit harder. And there is a man in here who is giving a little bit of like sci-fi Zavander. He is a tortured soul. He has a tragic past. We have a magic system in here where there is a virus, basically, and if you get infected with it, there's a 50-50 chance that you will be unalived, or that you will be unalived and then you will come back faster, stronger, and you have magical powers, and those magical powers are usually of the mind. They're like telepathical magic powers. So we've got two opposing sides. We have the group of people who see the virus as sort of like a blessing, a gift from the gods, and they worship it, and then we have the people who are very against it and would like to avoid being exposed to it at all costs. We also have a prophecy. We've got villains who are villaining. There's so many more layers than that. We've got like a sentient alien plant that was dropped off by a mysterious stranger in the beginning of the book. And this is just 10 out of 10 top tier dystopian. If you read dystopian growing up, you're guaranteed to like this book. Would completely recommend it. This is the first in a new series though, and the cliffhanger will leave you upset. But I personally, that's like one of my favorite things. All right, speaking of standalones, we read 2 this month, and one of them is extra spicy. We've got a little bit of a BDSM element, but it's dark academia. So listen, dark academia, we have an unalive mystery, as one usually does in dark academia, but we have witches and celestial magic. I feel like this was one of those books that like, I've been talking about books earlier where I'm like, I didn't know they were going to be good. I wasn't sure. This one, I just knew. I was like, there's no way this is not going to be a good time. And I feel like this was a good time, but it also had good plot. And I really enjoyed the plot twists that were in this book, but also like this is one of those books that like if you're looking for a book that is just one book but it's also like extra spicy for a standalone, I feel like sometimes if you want to get the slow burn in there, you want to get the plot, it's kind of hard to do a standalone that like does all of those things. I felt like this was still a bit of a slow burn. I loved the plot, like the mystery element of it. I thought it was very compelling, fast paced. Like I honestly didn't struggle to read anything this month. I don't know if just me choosing standalones was like, I didn't do it on purpose, just happened to be like the books that I wanted to read were standalones, but I feel like that was the right choice. I've been feeling a little like I want to jump around back and forth to things this month, and standalones have been the way to go. And like, I'm gonna tell you, there is nothing better than a dark academia standalone, but a lot of the dark academia standalones that I've read recently have not been like extra spicy, and I feel like this one was a little bit like more spicy than I thought it was going to be, but like in a good way. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. I went into this like romance wise completely blind. I didn't know there was going to be like a BDSM element to it. I didn't know that it was going to go that route. I feel like you don't normally see that in romantasy super often. So listen, extra spicy, standalone, dark academia. This is one that I feel like I really don't need to tell you that much about, because like if we have the same taste in books and we're all obsessed with Zodiac Academy, like there's no way you're not picking this up. Like, I don't know. And then a brand new book, I think it's already out or it just came out. Shadow Reaper is if you mixed kind of like Fourth Wing Powerless and something like Divergent. It's more like fantasy than it is dystopian, but it's sort of giving all of a mix of my favorite things, like romantasy, young adult fantasy. Like, this is a young adult fantasy book, and I just feel like, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, because everybody always wants things to be super spicy, and it's actually kind of disappointing that when I recommend something, if it doesn't have like 2+ chilies, people will literally like not take the recommendation, or they're like less likely to take the recommendation, and that pisses me off. Like, what the hell? Do you want a good story, or do you just want to get off? Because if it's the second number one, it shouldn't be romantasy that you're looking for. I don't recommend erotica all that often. Like, I think maybe I've recommended 1 or 2. And you could just look at that. You could look for genuinely like books that are just meant to be spicy. This is plot. This is young adult. So we have a lot of tension and yearning and will they, won't they. It, like, a young adult is just immaculate at dragging out like tension, because there's not the opportunity to go wild on the page. So you have to you got to keep it going. And this was done really well. This is also more of like a fantasy romance. So it's not super romance all the time. I personally think that the romance is quite a big part of the storyline. There's a lot of good banter in here. However, this also has a really good like kind of group of people, sort of like a, what am I looking for? Not a camaraderie. I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but like it doesn't even feel like they're side characters. It feels like a troupe, maybe. There's like 4 characters in here, 5 characters in here that are all very important. I feel like potentially later on, maybe in book 2, this is going to be a duology. Maybe we'll get different POVs from some of the other characters, but there is a character in here who has a little pet bunny, and he's supposed to be a bad guy, but he's this like nerdy guy with glasses and a bunny and like everything you wouldn't expect a bad guy to be. But anyway, in here we have a magic system. So we've got kind of like a universe where people are gifted with magic, but they are forced to give it up when they're 14. They sort of donate it to an obelisk, which acts as a protectant for the realm that they live in. So when they're 14, it's mandatory, they have to give up their magic. And so we have the Reapers, who feed off of children, basically, because you have the most power before you reach the age 14, and then once you give it up, you have maybe like 10% of your power left. So Reapers are pretty much like magic vampires, so they hunt down children and like siphon magic from them, and they don't hunt down adults because they don't want that low energy 10% magic. So that's what Reapers are. We have a girl, FMC in here, who had a best friend growing up who left her to become a Reaper, and now she meets him sort of near the beginning of the book in a prison cell, and we have to deal with the sort of like friends to enemies to, I don't know where they're going to go in here, but the banter was bantering. I thought it was hilarious. Our FMC is funny. Also, I love her sister. Her sister may as well be a main character. Her sister is doing illegal alchemy. Like, she is an alchemist, and alchemy is sort of forbidden. It's supposed to be one of the most dangerous forms of magic. So she is practicing illegally. And her mom, their mom, is like, you know, in charge of all of the political things. So it's very dangerous that they're doing this right under their mother's nose. Plot twist for days. This has a twisty-turny storyline. A lot of the stuff in here, like, I kept having to turn pages back and be like, wait, that completely came out of nowhere. Like, not in a bad, doesn't make sense way, but in a, I like literally didn't see it coming. So this did a really good job of shocking me. If you're looking for something that's really good plot and is not going to distract you with like spice that's just there for the sake of spice, like, this is a very good story, very good plot. I love young adult fantasy. It's like one of my favorite things. I feel like I'm not allowed to recommend it as much because people are always like, I'll try just to not mention spice, and then people are like, but how spicy is it? And I'm like, girl, I said it was young adult. How spicy do you think it is? You want to watch children getting it on? Like, what are we doing? The spice conversation annoys me. I love a spicy book. But I also, plot is more important to me. So I'm going to recommend you some books that don't have any spice in them, that have really good plot, and romance that's full of tension and yearning and angst, which is just as good, arguably better, than a book that's overly spicy and doesn't have emotional depth or connection because we're so focused on the spice. Like, get out of here. So those were all the books that I read in May. So let's go over what I'm super, super, super excited for June. 2 books I have already read and are guaranteed. I can tell you already they're going to be 5 stars. I'm not going to talk about them at length or I'll have nothing to talk about in my June reading wrap up. But listen, let's go in order from books that I have already read to books that I am thinking will also be 5 stars. I didn't know. I'm actually mad. I'm actually mad because I didn't know that Ballad of Falling Dragons was gonna be this big of a deal. Like, there were books that have come out and that are coming out this year that I was so much more excited about than this. Like, yes, I was excited about it. I liked When the Moon Hatched, but this was not at the top of my list for, like, books that were most anticipated for me. And the way it's been the best freaking thing I've ever read, like, it's been better than a lot of my most anticipated reads. I have to think really hard about where in the lineup it would go. But y'all, we're not playing. Sarah A. Parker was not playing. This is so good. This is, like, speaking of books where, like, you know, the spice takes away from the depth. This is so depth-filled. There is spice in here. And it's sort of tailored. It sort of interweaves in, like, the best way. So, like, you get that tension, the build, you get the release of the spice, and you get the, like, adult content, but the story is so good. Like, so good. And the relationship with the romance outside of the spicy areas is also really, really good. And I'm, like, fully rooting for all the characters in here. The dragons, I'm always freaking worried about the dragons because I cannot stand when bad things happen to animals, but, like, this is so good. I feel like I maybe need to stop there, but, like, literally god tier book. And I feel dumb because I didn't see this one coming. Normally this would have been a book that, like, if it was going to be this good and this big, I would have been all year long like, I can't wait for this to come out. I left this off of, like, 2 videos that were, like, my most anticipated reads of 2026. I barely talked about it. Here you go. Here it is. I'm about to be talking about it going forward for the next, like, 2 months. I'm going to have to convince everybody to read it. And yes, I don't want this to come off a certain way because some people genuinely don't know, and it's a fair question, kind of. But people keep asking me, do you need to read When the Moon Hatched to read Ballad of Falling Dragons? Yes, it's a series. It's a fantasy series. It reminds me of the people that ask me if Zodiac Academy is an anthology and you need to read all the books. It's a linear series. I don't think anybody's out there recommending When the Moon Hatched as a standalone. Anyway, I'm not trying to be overly judgy, but I get legitimately bamboozled by those comments. Yes, you have to read When the Moon Hatched. Honestly, you should reread. I didn't, but I did look up a deep, in-depth, like, recap of it. This is the only book of my book talk journey that I actually looked up and was helped by a recap. I normally can remember things really well. However, this one, there was, like, almost 2 years that it took between When the Moon Hatched and this one. And then it was so dense, not in, like, a boring way, but there was so much story that I was, like, confused when I first picked it up. So I would recommend a recap. If you have time, I do think a reread would have been better. And this book is written 10 times better than When the Moon Hatched was. It's absolutely amazing, immaculate, love it. Can't wait to give you the full review. We'll talk a little bit more about the unhinged level of emotional damage that's in this book, which is my favorite thing, but I've spent too much time on this because I'm excited to talk about it. So I'm also going to read, now listen, I have a confession. I have never read a J.R. Ward book. Now, are y'all going to yell at me and say that I should read something else by her first? This is a new romantasy from J.R. Ward, and I have not read any of her older stuff. I know she's got, like, a 27 book series. However, someone was telling me in my comments that they're interconnected standalones, so I don't necessarily have to read them all at once to, like, finish something. Someone advise, someone help. How do you do J.R. Ward? I'm probably not going to listen as far as I'm probably going to read this one first, because I want to read it, and it's new, and I think it's really pretty, and I'm excited to read it. So I will go back, though, if someone wants to give me a suggestion, and do you want to read along with me as I go back to the roots of paranormal romance and read J.R. Ward for the first time? Do we want to buddy read? What do you want to do? Let me know, but this will be my first J.R. Ward book. Don't know anything about it. I'm not even going to read the back. I'm just going to look at the cover and trust, and I'm going to open it, and we're going to read it this month. This one I haven't started, so let me know. And then I skipped the second confirmed God tier book because I forgot. Dystopian, and again, speaking of my tirade that I went on earlier, this is not a spicy book. I do think it will get spicy, but this is, like, for the plot. There is romance in it. There is 100% a romance subplot in this, but this is a God tier dystopian story. This is, like, 5-star God tier plot. This is a book. This is monumental. This is an immaculate story. You're going to think about it after you finish it. It's going to be fast paced right from the start. And something that's not obvious about this one that I actually didn't know until I started reading it was that it's got an academy in it. I didn't realize we were going to have an academia vibe. I would have picked it up a lot quicker had somebody said that, but all I hear about it is dystopian 1920s Great Gatsby vibes, which yes, all of that is true, but there's an academy in here. Hello? It's really weird to sort of mix dystopian and academy. It sort of gives, it's completely different, but like, I feel like Divergent was the first one that did something like that with the military academy. Vibes, but not a vibes read. Like, it's a vibe, but it is 10 out of 10 plot, immaculate. I really believe that this is going to get traditionally published. So again, if you want a hard copy, if you want the indie copy that will most definitely like be taken away for the reprint, I would get it now. I will be back with the full review on it, but just those are the thoughts I'm going to give you right now. I have a book that I'm really excited for based on what I know I like and based on how this book is talked about. So The Thorns We Inherit, this is the art copy. This is potentially giving Anathema. It's gothic and creepy. It's a romantasy. I know that I heard that it was compared to Anathema, and there was another book that I really liked that it was compared to, and I don't know what it was, and I'm sad that I can't tell you now. I'll try to find it like after I read it and look for that blurb that I saw. But I actually I didn't realize this has been on my TBR shelf, but I met the author this past weekend at Magic and Meet Cutes, and she is a vibe. She's like a gothic queen, and I was like, oh shoot, I have your book that you sent to me and you signed, and it's a beautiful cover, and I've already been thinking about reading it. It was just like the push that I needed. No, she did not ask me to read it, so I'm gonna read this because I want to. I did not realize it was gothic, and then she asked me if I liked Anathema and like 2 other books that, again, I can't remember. But this is supposed to be really good. It has very good reviews so far on Goodreads, so I feel this potentially might be a hidden gem. This is one that I'm very excited for, kind of like how I felt about Between Tides and Thunder. Like, I picked it up and I was like, I know it's going to be good, but I feel like it might be really good. I feel like this might be really good. So not reading the back of the book, don't know anything about it. I do know that it's gothic, and I know that it's a romantasy and that it's a little bit darker than the other books that we've talked about, except maybe Ballad of Falling Dragons, because that is pretty dark. But can't wait. If anybody's read it, if you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, let me know. But I am for sure putting it on the confirmed June TBR. It is my next read currently. Now, all I needed to see in the reviews for this book was Unreliable Narrator, and I was sat. I've been seeing this one float around. I don't usually like books with people on the cover, but sometimes the best books are not my favorite covers. Also, I don't know. This is not like a real person, so it's a completely different vibe than like a real guy on the cover of a book, and this man I love a man with silver hair. So this is dark. I don't know anything about it other than that's a dark romantasy. I like to go into my books blind. I hope you guys don't think that I just don't know what I'm talking about, but like, I don't like to know anything about a book before I read it. Like, if I see a blurb, I'll tell you what I saw on it. I just know this is dark romantasy. I literally don't know anything else about it. That's it. I'm excited to read it though, based on vibes that I've gotten about it. And this one does also have really good reviews on Goodreads. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is the beginning of a new series. It's not going to be a standalone. But again, if anybody has read it, this is another one that I feel good about, and I'm going to be sad if I don't like it, but like I feel really good about it right now. That's so unhelpful. But if you've read it, let me know. I do need, in between all of these fantasy books that are on my TBR, a palette cleanser, and a palette cleanser that's actually going to be good. Fever Dream, I didn't know Elsie Silver had a new book. I, 90% of the time, love an Elsie Silver book. The only ones I haven't liked have been Hopeless, and then I didn't like a couple. I don't really love a billionaire romance. I like the Elsie Silver series that are a little bit more like, cowboy feeling. Like, I really loved all of the Gold Rush Ranch series, and I loved most of the Flawless, Powerless series, whatever. I didn't really like Hopeless because it was just not my type of age gap. However, I usually love an Elsie Silver book. This one, number 1, has a beautiful cover, and number 2, this is a reality TV show that's taking place on a ranch. Like, what? I read that concept and I was like, I'm sold, because that sounds so crazy that I have to read it. And I will say that I have actually started this one. I've been like reading it when I'm feeling like fantasy is a little too heavy. I'm only about like 50 pages in, but this is about Theo Silva's sister. And Theo Silva is my favorite boyfriend from is it Chestnut Springs? Is it the Chestnut Springs series that Theo Silva is? But anyway, it's his sister, so we're going to follow her. So far, I really like the MMC in here. I did not like the MMC in Wildcard. That was the other one that I didn't really like. So a little bit of a hit or miss, but like 90% hit, and then I don't like 1 out of every 4 that I read. So this one I'm really liking so far. I love an Elsie Silver book. I feel like they're perfect between dense fantasy. I don't think there's any chance that this is going to be a bad read. However, we'll see. Sometimes the end, makes me question. I don't know what I'm going to think. But so far, eating it up. It's amazing. And the audiobook is, I think the audiobook is duet narration for this. So I might pop onto audiobook for parts of it. Because mostly Elsie Silver books are dual narration. And I feel like I saw that this one was duet. So if it is, I'm very interested to listen to it in that format. Now, the final book on my June TBR is one that I legitimately am terrified to read. Y'all been telling me to read The Road of Bones forever. And my book bestie Kayla has been telling me to read it forever and saying that it's a God tier book forever. Now listen, she and I mostly like the same books. However, there have been some books that she has loved that I literally despise. And there have been some books that I like that she doesn't like. So this is a high stakes read for me. Could ruin the friendship. Maybe we'll never speak again if I don't like it. Everybody says this is God tier. However, I have seen some people say that they really didn't like it. I would be less worried if it was one of those books like The Poison Daughter that's like renowned. Like I didn't see anybody say anything bad about The Poison Daughter, but this is one of those ones that's a little bit more like people really feral love it if they love it. And then there are, a chunk of people out there that are like, I really couldn't get into this. I didn't like it. It's not that they hate it, but I guess the vibe is that it's a little bit overhyped. So I'm terrified to read. I've been putting it off because it literally gives me anxiety because I'm expecting, the worst thing ever is when you're expecting a book to be 5 stars and it's like not 5 stars. That is like a terrible feeling because it feels like you've wasted your time. Feels like the lead up wasn't worth it. You've been so excited about something for so long and then it's like when it's a letdown, it's extra depressing. Whereas like going into a book blind and it being disappointing is just sort of like, oh, I had no idea. Like who would have known? But like for as many people to say that this is God tier as they have, if it's not, I'm going to be very upset. So we're going to start The Road of Bones. There are 3 books out right now. I've heard it compared to Throne of Glass. I'm ready for something that's a little bit more dense and like emotional and has more layers when it comes to the story. I've been really seeking out like plot lately, and don't worry, I've got plenty of spicy recs and I still love a spicy book, but I've been looking for something a little bit more meaningful lately, so I do plan to read more high fantasy this summer. I feel like most of this is romantasy and dystopian. July, we're gonna go back to The Will of the Many. I really liked it. I got overwhelmed and I haven't finished it yet, but I have started. I'm about like 30% into book 1 and I haven't hit that point yet in a book like that where I'm like sucked in. It's kind of a little bit more, it like starts off slower and I could feel that I was right at it. Like I was about to be at the point where like if it was gonna pick up for me, it was going to. And then I had to read something else, or I think something really exciting came out. Maybe it was Cindervale, and I was like, well, I can't wait on this. I have to read it now. So we're going to go back to reading that. I was reading it at the beginning of the year. If you've read Will of the Many, is it worth it? Or should I just not even go back? Is there a better kind of high fantasy? I don't know if that one's I don't know if you would call that dystopian, or I honestly am not far enough in it to be able to tell you what genre it is, and I didn't really look. So I've been liking it so far. The magic system's very confusing though. I don't really understand. That's my May reading wrap up and my June TBR. If you have any tweaks that I should make to the June TBR, whether or not I should like take something off, maybe read it later, take something off forever, if there's anything I should try to squeeze in. I literally don't know that I can finish this many books in like 10 days. I forgot to tell you about my life transition. I left the full-time part of my full-time job literally today. It's been a very weird day. I feel really weird. I feel really sad. I'm gonna feel happy about it. Like it is the right decision. It was literally my decision. It was not forced upon me. But it's like when you have a breakup, or it's like when you have a breakup and you choose to remain friends, because I'm staying on part-time, or sort of I'm doing contract work now, so I'm not leaving the company. It's not on bad terms, but I worked for a company that I wanted to work at for over 10 years, and it was like a dream, a bucket list to work for them. So it's weird to want to leave something like that, and I don't know how I feel about it, because I'm ready to be part-time. I want to work for myself. Like I want to be able to talk about books and do my bookish retreats. We just launched and sold out Savannah. I'm going to launch Scotland. If you're interested in bookish retreats, I can tell you all about them. I'm going to launch Scotland in July, and it's going to be for October of 2027. So if you want to go to Scotland with me, that's what I'm doing now. I'm planning bookish retreats. I'm reviewing books. I don't even know what all I'm doing. I honestly need to write out my own personal job description now that I have it. But like, I'm still part-time, still also working for this company that I love. But like, I did the thing where I sort of dissociate for the last month. I knew we set a date to be my last full-time date, and then I just sort of didn't think about it until the date happened, and then I realized that it was today, and I had to write my little like Slack sort of goodbye, but not really goodbye. And it was really hard to write. It was really emotional. And I don't know, like, even when I get emotional about things, I don't get quite that deeply emotional, but I didn't realize what a big deal it was. And it's like a really big deal. And it feels like a really big deal. It feels like really heavy. And I'm ready to like obviously be into the part where I'm really happy about it. But I'm like, I'm not happy about giving up something that I like worked really hard to have. So like, I'm having to give up something that I wanted for years, that I manifested, that I got, and that I am very successful at. So I'm leaving for no reason, but the reason is that I want to work for myself. I like doing book content. I think it's super cringy to say that you want to be a book content creator, you want to be a content creator. I still have to get over the imposter syndrome of being like, that's what I want to be, like that's what my job is, like I am good at it. I don't like, there's a lot of weird heavy things of like leaving a job that I'm good at, deciding that I'm not superwoman and I'm not able to do 3 full-time jobs at once. And then this is a really weird vulnerable thing to me, for me to say, but like I don't want to tell people I'm a content creator. I feel like that's cringe. So I don't know. It's something that I want to do, that I'm passionate about, but like, why am I embarrassed to tell people? I don't know. And I'm sitting here rethinking my entire life while we're talking about it because I don't know. I know that it was the right decision, but like everything's happening today. And I did my reading wrap up and there is my life update. So if you wanted to know about it, that's my job. If you want to know more about what I used to do, what I plan to do, like I used to work on the Duggars. I worked in reality TV and then I worked for PopFlex doing social media. If anybody ever wants to hear about my jobs, listen, we can just do like day in the life shit. I can wake up and I can take you through my day and I can talk to you about everything I've ever done. I feel like that's super like self-centered of me to say, but listen, if you want to know, I'll tell you. And if you have no interest, we don't have to make the content, but I have much more time to make content for you, so we can make all the weird stuff. It doesn't have to just be books. It doesn't have to be just book recommendations. I don't know. You want to go to Barnes & Noble with me? What do you want to do? I'm feeling lost in my life right now, so we'll see. That's not a great thing to feel when you've left your job to do something else. So I think it's just because today feels really weird. We'll see what happens, but I'll be here weekly. Maybe if I have time, we'll do 2 times a week and we can do a little mixture of content. But let me know what you want to see. If you have any tweaks to my June TBR, how did you like Ballad of Falling Dragons if you read it? And we'll be back with a standalone list. Make sure you subscribe so that I can trauma dump on you more. I've got frog in my throat now, so I have to stop talking so it doesn't sound like I'm crying. Okay, we're going to get off. I'm going to leave. I'll be back next week. You're welcome for this deep conversation that we had. And Instagram, and just know that Instagram and TikTok will never see this side of me. Anyway, goodbye. Subscribe. Give me a comment if you would like to. Have a discussion. Or maybe you're cringed out because I got a little too deep for you. But that is what it is. Okay, so bye.